You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 14 of the Battered MLS Fans Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and as always, I'm accompanied by four other MLS podcasters. Today, we're doing a special Eastern Conference first-round preview. Justin Blair throwing up the sarcasm. And let's start with introducing Mr. Justin Blair. What's going on in Cincinnati, sir?
The lighting a little bit screwed up on that one, but yeah, it's going good, man. Get a playoff game. Got New York City FC coming into town. I think there is a little bit of a buzz coming off of a victory at Philadelphia, effectively eliminating the first team from the playoffs.
There you go, already. And Mr. Danny Brands from Charlotte. What's going on, man?
Well, I'm going to take issue with a couple things Justin just said. First off, Charlotte eliminated the first team from the playoffs. We knocked DC out of a playoff position into non-playoffs on decision day. But what else would I expect from the fake Queen City than to try to
fake Queen
Charlotte's
City?
story?
That's right.
And so what can
There's
I say?
only one Queen City.
But yeah, great to be here. Love the Battered Fans Network. Thank you always for any invites, Daniel. I'm drinking my Argentinian wine like you know I like to do. For those that are familiar with the Danny Brams
Special
mode of being, motif, I guess I'm looking for. Always a pleasure to be here, but I've already talked too long because we got to turn it over to the man of the hour, right? Like there's someone here who's celebrating with something even stronger than wine. Our guy Tommy's drinking bourbon because they weren't even in the playoffs. They were just in the wild card, and now they're actually in. This is a good thing.
They made it to the dance, ready to get their ass kicked. What's going on, Tommy?
Playoffs?
So, how you doing, Tommy? You feeling good, huh?
I'm going to drink some Wayne Gretzky ice cask for Canada, of course, for Canada, right?
Is that really Wayne Gretzky?
Yeah.
It says it on the label.
What the heck? Okay.
Got it from Canada.
Well done, sir.
Yeah.
That took part of my life, that game.
Oof.
Like, there's nothing like the city of Atlanta to blow a 28-3 lead, and like 28-3 is 2-0 with what? How many minutes left?
Yeah.
Not 30, 30 or so. And your boy Joseph doing it to you. That would have been the worst for sure.
I think that would have hit him the hardest.
I threw a bet on Joseph scoring a goal tonight.
Smart man.
So I won money, and we're in the playoffs. Like, Danny, cheers.
Cheers to you.
All right. And then last but not least, from the Wise Men Podcast, everybody's very familiar with Ty. He comes on here often, but his co-host is joining us today. Gerald, what's going on, my man?
Living life, you know what I'm saying? 2 seed all the way around the board. So in case Inter Miami gets knocked out, you know Columbus is going to host back-to-back MLS Cups.
Wow.
Wow. Hey.
I mean, look, it might happen. We'll see. We'll get into that in a second.
I think it will happen. I'm rolling with Columbus in this bracket. I gotta say, I don't want to spoiler alert for any.
Just saying how funny it would be if it's LAFC and Columbus 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it happening, but it would be funny for sure.
It would be a little bit like redundant, but that was a great final last year. I was in the building for that one, so I couldn't be too mad at it. If Charlotte can't win it, then I'm actually kind of got a little bit of a soft spot for Columbus this year. What can I say?
Danny, we were in the building at the same time, and we didn't even know it.
All three of us.
Yeah, three of us. Justin went because they got eliminated a couple days before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the bracket, and let's start with the top of the bracket. Inter Miami, the first seed, is not played against the 8th seed Atlanta. So I guess we'll start with there. Tommy, you're right now riding a high. You just beat Montreal, barely, in PKs. How are you feeling about this matchup against Inter Miami?
When I learned yesterday that the reason, because we've talked about this when we've been on this before, the scheduling for these wildcard games going into game one, you're already at a disadvantage because you're playing an extra game. What I find ridiculous, and I said this before, whether it's Montreal or Atlanta, a Tuesday to Friday turnover is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The West plays Wednesday, and then they go to play on Sunday. They get an extra day. Now, I'm sorry, but Miami is the best team here. If you want the best product, right? The best product, the best game, you want your guys rested, right? And you're putting them at a disadvantage. Now, I learned the part of the reason why is because at Times Square, apparently they're going to be showing game 1. I don't have a problem with that. The part that I have a problem with is that TikTok is going to have a messy cam. And let me tell you something, because I ranted about this yesterday. TikTok is for 15-second videos, not 90 minutes plus stoppage time.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do not make a messy cam on TikTok. Absolutely not. And you have to watch it like 15 seconds, then it goes to commercial, and then it comes back at 15 seconds. That's the only way I'm going to prove if this is a real thing.
Can I just jump in? I just got to jump in, and I got to say, cry more, Atlanta. You shouldn't even be in these playoffs. If it wasn't for Charlotte FC, you wouldn't be in these playoffs. So get over it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Danny. But look, if you want the quality, a high quality product, and you want the best of best, then you need to have them at least a little bit rested. And again, same for Montreal, or same for if it was the Western situation. I don't think Atlanta's got very much of a chance at all to beat Miami here.
But before you keep going with that, Miami has played every Eastern Conference team since Messi's arrived. There's only one team that he hasn't been able to beat, or the team hasn't been able to beat, and it's Atlanta. Messi's only lost twice as a starter against an MLS team since he's arrived. He lost to Charlotte last year in the final game of the season. That one's a little weird because it was the last game of the season. It almost felt like he was just kind of just going through the motions, but regardless, it's still a loss.
It was almost like he was walking around doing nothing until the ball came to him, like he always does every single match.
Yeah, but he did even less than usual. And then Atlanta, that game, he started. It was middle of the season, 3-1 loss. That one was wild. So Atlanta seems to be the team that's given Inter Miami the most issues. So this is definitely not something that Inter Miami fans wanted. At least, I mean, I didn't care, but a lot of fans were saying that they'd rather have Montreal. I'm looking forward to it. But I wouldn't. I mean, I think Miami's going to win, but I mean, I'm okay not dismissing it altogether. So, Tommy, do you think there's any chance?
I think there's a chance it goes 3 games.
Oh, you think it's okay? Okay.
I think there's a chance it goes 3.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, you guys don't like turf. I know you practiced it a little bit last time you came in, just to get a little run around to feel what it's like.
Yeah.
But Grandpa's knees might not be able to handle that turf for too long.
He'll handle it. He'll be fine.
I mean,
all right.
We'd be disappointed if you said anything else. You got to support your team, right?
For sure. Sure. All right, but now coming from somebody that is that doesn't have a dog in the race, how are you feeling about the Miami Atlanta series?
I think Miami rolls. I've been picked. Like I'm done picking against Miami myself. I'd love to hear from Justin and Gerald representing the 2 and 3 seeds, because those are the teams that probably have a better chance than Charlotte or Atlanta to knock them off. But right now, I kind of like have to just accept like all the shit that I've talked and all the lack of faith I've had in Miami all year has been proven to be false and wrong. So at this point, I'm going to need to see someone beat them before I predict them to lose. Sadly. Not happy about it, but
I can't see it happening. I think it would be a phenomenal story with Atlanta just being that thorn in the side of that club. But I think this is Miami turning it. The whole thing is together now. You got Tata's got this full complement of players. This is the time that we see the Jordi Albas and the Messis and the Luis Suarez's turn it on. And Atlanta better hold on, because
any chance
Brad Guzan better be standing on his head all match.
Guzan sucks. Any chance he gets to 3 games?
No, I don't see him winning it. I think the second game will be close, though. I will give him that.
Okay. Gerald, how you feeling? You think any chance that Atlanta beats Inter Miami or even forces a game 3?
No.
That's it.
Hey,
short and sweet. That's it.
Hold on, Tommy. Before you start, running off and going to jump off the Cleveland Bridge, had Atlanta not gotten rid of everybody, and everybody was, still on the same page, we might be talking about a different Atlanta team.
Yeah, that's true. 100%.
But Atlanta has been plagued with injuries, selling players. not really getting the return on some of the investment, going through a coaching change. There's so much drama right there that it's hard to be real competitive coming into the playoffs. And I saw somebody in the comments talk about Atlanta went from Orlando now up to Montreal. Now they got to fly back to Miami.
In
They're
3
about
days,
to be wasted.
Yeah. That first game, it almost feels like it should be almost a gimme for Miami. But if somehow Atlanta pulls it off, like you somehow force us to go to PKs and you win in PKs, that second game is going to be kind of wild because I'm sure Atlanta's going to be feeling pretty good going back home and with that big upset. But I don't see it happening.
Full stadium, I'm pretty sure.
If for some reason it happens, that's the story of the year.
For sure. Tommy, how are tickets looking for that? Oh, it just happened, so you probably don't know. So, Tommy, I know you got it.
Man, I look like I've been through it tonight.
You do look like you've been through it, though. Yeah.
I know that you said you have to go. Any quick predictions just for the Eastern Conference in general before you head out?
I was going to say Columbus was going to win it all until tonight, of course. But I definitely I think it's going to be the Galaxy and the Crew. You're going to get a different LA this time.
Okay. All right. And I was going to ask you about Messi MVP and all that other stuff. That's after. So we can have that conversation another day.
I actually agree with you. I've changed my mind.
Okay. All right. See,
and it was actually your silly comment that you made the other day about him subbing in late and still getting MVP of the game. It hit me right here.
And you know what? And I've gotten a lot of crap for that because some people didn't read the sarcasm. So, all right. Well, Tommy, as always, a pleasure. And have fun on your spaces. I'm sure you guys are about to have a blast on spaces.
We gotta have one party. All right.
Them 5 stripes is hell, don't they? Congratulations.
Thank you, Dan.
So go ahead and we move on here. And I want to put this up real quick. So this is the Eastern Conference bracket. So obviously we got Miami, Atlanta. And then the winner of that plays against Orlando or Charlotte. So let's go ahead and move on to Orlando and Charlotte. Danny Brams.
My man.
How are you feeling about this Orlando-Charlotte game? Because I feel like that's the most compelling series out of the 4.
It's tight. It's poised right on the knife's edge. It could go either way. 4-5, that's nothing that you would be surprised by. It's what everybody wants in a 4-5 matchup. So Charlotte FC took 13 of the last 15 points of the season, one of the hottest teams in the East coming into the playoffs. One of only 5 teams, I think, that in the league that were unbeaten in their last 5 matches. And all that started, everything right before that was a loss at Orlando. So losing at Orlando was sort of like the low point in the late season that forced Charlotte to get their act together and be like, okay, what do we really want to do? Dean Smith, the coach, made a bunch of tactical and lineup changes after that match that spurred this sort of new approach on offense and new winning streak. And the one draw in that, we won 4 out of 5, and the draw was at Miami, with Messi on the pitch. So Charlotte has got to be considered one of the hottest teams. And Orlando finished pretty strong until that very last game of decision day when they lost to to Atlanta. So that kind of gave me a little more hope because Orlando is pretty dangerous. Facundo Torres is awesome. Duncan McGuire is super dangerous. They've got a great squad. But I feel like Dean Smith is the better coach. I think Parejo is kind of a very boring coach. Now, both coaches are kind of pragmatic, and I could see the first game being very cagey and kind of being a play for penalties type game with neither coach really wanted to go for it. But I hope it's not that way because Charlotte has really embraced the sort of go for it style in this final stretch of the season that's paid off pretty well. And the lineup changes have been really effective. We had a center back pairing, Andrew Privet and Adiosa Malanda, that was doing big things for most of the year. And then we signed Tim Ream. And it's like, we got to play this guy that we signed, right? So we benched Andrew Privet and put Ream at center back. And it was like, we lost our defensive identity. So what Dean Smith did is he put Privet back in the lineup and moved Ream out to left back. And that, even though Ream's 35, 36 years old and not exactly fleet of foot, he makes some really nice long passes and cross field passes. So actually having a left back is pretty nice. So the back line has been shored up again. He put Junior Urso in the midfield. It's going to be a revenge game for Urso against his old club. He subbed in that loss to Orlando about a month ago, but wasn't very impactful. But he's been awesome. He scored a goal against Chicago. He's been really locking it down in the defensive midfield. And he's that sort of box-to-box guy that can do – and he can even go wide when necessary. Urso's just a very versatile player who finally – we've been trying a couple different guys in that role, and finally Dean was like, let's just put the MLS veteran in there who knows what to do and especially how to play in this league, and it's been really effective. And then up top, he moved a guy who had been playing centrally, sort of our late window lone DP, this guy Pep Biel, who not very many people know very well, but he's been pretty nice in the last 6 matches. He was playing centrally. Dean Smith moved him out to the right wing. He benched Kerwin Vargas, our Colombian parcero. I mean, we hated to see Vargas go to the bench, but Vargas actually been pretty effective from the bench. He scored from the bench a couple times now. And then what the sort of the master stroke of it all. So like Privet comes back, Urso comes in, Biel goes wide. But then what he did is he put Brant Bronico, who's like a 6, right? He's like a defensive midfielder. He's just like a little, like he's kind of undersized, but he just runs and runs and runs. He just never stops running. He's kind of like a little bit of a pesky little gnat in some ways, but he's got skills. And so
like Dax McCarty?
Yeah, kind of like a faster Dax McCarty, you could say. And like he played with Dax in Chicago, I think. And Brant is sort of like a false 9 almost, which you wouldn't think. He's not a striker, but like he's sort of like his tip of the spear. He's this guy that plays defense in our attacking zone and wins tons of balls back, and it's really helped kickstart our offense, and it's all good. And so all these things, I mean, I hate to like go through the litany of it. I hope I'm not boring anyone with all these little minutia tactical changes that Charlotte's made, but like what I'm trying to say is it's a whole different team than even what we saw most of the season. And so you really, when I look at what this Charlotte team has been in the last month, it's a no-brainer for me. I think they win. I think they sweep Orlando. I think they go down to Orlando. I think depending on the mentality, they go down to Orlando, and if they, as long as they don't play soft and safe and overly defensive, I think they jump all over Orlando early, win the match there, and then come home to like a triumphant, dominant performance and sweep it in 2. That's what I think.
Orlando, in their last 8 games, they've won 6 of them outright. They've won 6 games. The only loss they had was Columbus, and then randomly losing to Atlanta.
Yeah,
the very last game. I don't know what the hell happened there, but that Columbus loss, obviously, and I mean, Orlando's been looking solid. They beat you guys 2-0 on the 18th of September. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what I said. That that was sort of the like. Okay, and that's when all those changes that I just went through happened right after that Orlando game.
So yeah. Okay, so you think that over the last month is just different?
I think the reaction to that Orlando loss and the fact that like Dean saw something and knows how to beat that team. I just think it very likely is going to be like a cagey pragmatic.
George is trying to give you credit for going up to Dean Smith and saying that he's boring.
I mean, yeah, vamos. Jorge Torres is one of our great Charlotte FC photographers. He's on the sidelines shooting every match. He's a Colombian like you, Danny, and he was actually recently back in visiting Colombia. Took some great pictures there.
I'm rocking my Beckham Colombia shirt right now.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Jorge's a great guy. I'm glad he jumped in the stream. And what he's saying there, if anyone doesn't know, is like it's kind of like a thing on our show for Charlotte Soccer Show for the Crown Baby. Is I went to like one of the Dean Smith press conferences after that, or like a couple days after that Orlando game, and I was on Zoom, and I was like, Dean, like this team is just boring. It's like a chore to watch. Like it's one thing to lose 3 matches in a row, but like the fans don't even want to watch this team. And he was like, he's like, wow. It's the first I've heard anyone call the team boring. You know, what the hell is that? And then they won the next match 4-0 against New England, which anyone can beat New England. But and then he said in the post-game press conference, he was like, I was a little offended. You know, I heard someone say the team was boring. So that it's kind of like the boring moment has kind of like turned our season around, but I don't really take full credit for that. I was just relaying to Dean like conversations that we were having amongst a group of friends, because I didn't come up with that out of thin air. Me and all my friends were saying this team is fucking boring. So
it's funny you say that because when Miami was playing against Charlotte, so I forgot who it was, but one of the broadcasters brought up like, hey, it was offended that somebody said the team was boring. And I remember you had told us that we had that conversation, so I thought it was pretty funny. So there you go. Danny Brams is the reason Charlotte's going to be the MLS champions. I love it.
Good on him.
Gerald, How are you feeling about that Charlotte-Orlando matchup?
It's gonna go 3 games.
You think it's going to go 3 games? I agree, man. I think that's going to be the most. That's the series I'm looking forward to watching outside, obviously, my team. That I'm looking forward to watching the most this first round.
So I mean, Charlotte's had a great they've had a good defense all year, right? One of the toughest defenses in the league. But going from Charlotte down to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and playing down in Florida and playing any team in Florida, honestly, you're not only playing the team, but you're also playing the weather.
The element, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's also weather up in Charlotte where, the game gets rain delayed for 4.5 hours before it's called. That was a wasted trip that I took down there last year. But you're playing more humidity down in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
So Orlando has an edge there, but going back and forth, it's going to be 3 games. I think it's see
3 games also.
I would love to see Charlotte go past the first round, but I think it's Orlando.
Gerald, next time you're coming to Charlotte, let me know, man. I'll make sure it's not a wasted trip. We'll go and have a good time. Sure. No problem. Yeah.
You know what? I think Charlotte's gonna win. Charlotte is that team that I told you. The only team that I'm scared of playing in the first round as an Inter Miami fan. That's the only team that scares me. But with that said, I'd rather see Orlando, not because I don't want Inter Miami to play the better team, but because of this Miami-Orlando rivalry that everybody wants to put out there. And it's like, oh, it's a rivalry. It's a rivalry. It's proximity. It's not a rivalry. But I think adding a playoff game to the mix will help that rivalry. So for that reason, I'd rather see Orlando than Charlotte. On top of the fact that I also think that I don't want to play against that defense, because a good defense in a single elimination game, anything can happen. But I want to see Orlando, but I do think Charlotte's going to win. Justin, what do you think about that Orlando-Charlotte matchup?
I think you got a clash of philosophies. I think that Charlotte definitely have figured things out a little bit. Their defensive prowess has scared everybody in this league.
And the Kalina sheets.
Orlando is averaging 2.7 goals in the past before the Atlanta match, 2.7 goals per game. So Orlando's found fire, and that's wild to think an Oscar Pereira team, even with like the amazing talent that he's had out there, going back to like Nani playing there. But I could never imagine a Pereira team, the low block, the constant low block, always. I kind of like expected when I saw this immediately when it popped up. I was like, this there's no way this thing's going to get over a 1.5 under over. There's no way in any of these 3 games. But I think this is gonna ask Dean Smith, like he thinks he's solved some problems, right? Definitely playing with a lot more vigor, getting a lot more goals into the net. But this is going to be a question, okay, can they break down Orlando when Orlando's dictating the tempo? Because that's what they do. I think Gerald experienced it in that 4-3 matchup. Not long ago. They can go that pace, or they could go like they did against my FC Cincinnati team and just sit on it all night long, get a couple goals early and just sit on it the whole game. So Pereira is probably still one of the top 5 coaches in this league. So I think this is where Dean Smith gets his prowess and gets that recognition around the league. I still think Charlotte comes away with it, but I do think this, I agree with Gerald. I think this goes 3 games.
That's nice of you to say, Justin. And it makes me not want to admit that I would rather be playing Cincinnati than Orlando in this first round match. As the season was hitting its home stretch, I was like, I think I'd rather be the 6th seed and play Cincy, just because they're kind of stumbling to the finish.
I think a lot of people in the bottom of that bracket were saying the same thing. They were aiming for Cincy. And then just to the point that Justin made about the goals that Orlando's been scoring, they played against the best 2 defenses in the East back-to-back games, 3 games apart. They played against Charlotte on September 18th, scored 2 on them, and then on 3 days later played against Columbus and put 3. They lost that game, but they still scored 3 on Columbus. 2 best defenses. They put up 5 games within 3 days. That's a potent offense. So like I said, it's going to be a good offense, good defense. I'm really interested. And I know we're not talking Western Conference today. On Thursday, we're going to be back with a panel of Western Conference podcasters to talk Western Conference. But Orlando, Charlotte, and in the West, the Houston, Seattle.
Yeah.
I'm really into that matchup also. That's going to be, that's going to be fireworks, like you said. So, but again, back to the East. So we've talked about the first two matchups. We got Inter, Atlanta. I think it was consensus, Miami.
Yeah.
Orlando, Charlotte. I think Charlotte. Danny thinks Charlotte. Justin, you said Charlotte, Orlando.
Charlotte,
and Gerald, you said Orlando, correct?
Yep.
All right, so with 3-1 with the Charlotte, and then we move on to Cincinnati, NYCFC. Now, NYCFC will be hosting the second game in Queens in Shea Stadium since the Mets are garbage and weren't able to make the World Series, so they will be playing in Queens. So we go. NYCFC struck the jackpot, right? That's where everybody wanted to land if you were on the bottom half of the bracket. You wanted Cincinnati. So, Justin, how are you seeing this matchup play out? NYCFC, Cincinnati.
It's not good. I think everyone may have been looking at FC Cincinnati as the team they'd like to play, and I was looking at NYCFC as the team I don't want to play. Like, yeah, sure, I would be frustrated playing against Charlotte with how defensive they play, but I'm like terrified. These young guys at NYCFC with Maxi Morales heading them up, it's like they're phenomenal to watch. Like they're one of those teams that like almost every week, and I open my app and I'm like, I'm gonna bet NYCFC. They're a roller coaster team. They're young and experienced. They are very much a rebuild team, but they are shooting way above their budget right now. They're absolutely got something figured out up in Queens, but I'm still thinking Cincinnati finds a way. I think that you have a situation where FC Cincinnati through the regular season have been limping quite figuratively with quite a bit of injuries, quite a bit of drama, bar fights with boxers. It's been something else, man. It's been a heck of a thing to cover. But then, we look at this late October and we're in third place. So we get, the two home matches that could come back to really help us out. I think FC Cincinnati wins it in 3.
Okay, so you think Cincinnati wins? Alfonso Martinez has been an absolute monster.
Yes, he has.
And when you look at goals per 90 minutes, Messi is by far number one. And nobody's talking about the fact that this person that not a lot of people that don't watch MLS closely know who this kid is. He's right behind Messi. Well, not right behind Messi, but he's number 2 behind Messi. Like, this kid was balling the second half of the year. Gerald, how are you feeling about your friends Cincinnati playing against NYCFC?
I'm hoping for hell is real in the second round.
Oh, okay. Kind of like what I'm saying.
However, it could go either way. It's going to go 3 games. Cincy has been, plagued with injuries. And I don't think that Lucho could carry the team on his back. He's done it, 2 years now. And, we saw in the Eastern Conference final last year what happened. He couldn't carry it the rest of the way. So, I mean, you lose your back line with Hagelin and Miazga. You got Miles Robinson. Not really too much, other production, coming from that back line. You got a hit or miss, forwards with, Kubo and, Halsey. So, I mean, it's just one of those where it's a coin flip, honestly. I would love to have hell is real in the second round because we owe you guys, this year.
Yeah.
But
Gerald, if I could jump in there a little bit with that, when you said hit or miss with the forwards, the shot was very telling on Saturday when you're looking at 5 forwards sitting on the bench and we're playing a left wing back and a midfielder at forward. That tells you how much we have missed on the forward position this year. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I mean, I like I said, I would love Cincy, but it's a coin flip. I really can't say who's going to come out on top.
Well, I was curious because I know I've heard third game a couple times for a couple of the first series that we talked about. So I went back to see last year how many of the series went 3 games.
Mhm.
And out of the 8 series, only 3 of them went. Out of the 8, only 3 of them went to 3 games. Seattle, Dallas, Houston, Real Salt Lake, and in the East, only Columbus, Atlanta.
Yep.
So the other ones all ended in 2 games. So
And that was
we'll see.
the weird series too. The Columbus Atlanta one, wasn't it? Like Thiago Almada was like suspended the first game.
I don't remember.
Atlanta came back.
He was suspended the first game. Columbus won. I can't remember if it was 2-0 or 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
And then we lost 4-2 in Atlanta and came back and won game 3.
I won 4-2. Yep.
Yeah, they Atlanta and Columbus were like the 2 leading goal scorers. It was just like you knew that was just gonna be fireworks shooting back and forth.
I think NYCFC takes it. I do think it might go 3, but I think NYCFC takes it. NYCFC's been rolling so far the second half of the year, and I think this kid Martinez is gonna make everybody know who his name is after the series. I got to go NYCFC in 3. I do think it'll go 3. Danny Brams, what are we thinking? Oh, and Matt Freeze, by the way, underrated. Not enough people talking about him. Everybody's talking about Kalina.
No.
Freeze is should be talked about as one of the best goalies in the league. Kalina should win the award.
My ears are perking up when I hear Kalina slander,
should win the
even
award.
anything slightly resembling Kalina slander. I'm like,
you can go back last week. We had the who should win the award. That said Kalina, but Freeze should be definitely a finalist. Danny Brams, how are we feeling? NYCFC Cincinnati.
I am a Matty Ice fan. He's a good goalkeeper. Props to him for working his way out of Andre Blake's shadow. But I have to go the contrarian route here. I think Cincy takes this in 2. I think everybody's talking about, Cincy problem this, Cincy problem that. When you look at the results, when you look at the actual results, NYC had to work pretty hard to beat Cincy 3-2 just 2.5 weeks ago at their own place. Mm-hmm. I think Cincy's struggles were against Cincy lost at New York. They lost against LAFC. They lost against Orlando. Meanwhile, they're beating other playoff teams like Montreal, Cincinnati. They had the 0-0 draw in the Hell is Real. That was, an interesting match. And I just think Cincy's a little more battle tested. When you look at New York City's like sort of wins that they put up 5 goals on the Red Bulls. Who cares? They beat Nashville, a team that had like thrown in the towel on the season months ago. NYC, lost on decision day in Montreal to allow Montreal to shore up their spot in the wild card game. So I am less impressed with what New York City has achieved recently, and I'm more impressed with the level of competition Cincinnati's faced. I think they're a little more battle tested. I think they have by far the best player in the series, as good as Alfonso is. Lucho Acosta is just something else. I think he's going to show out in playoff time. I think Cincy's midfield with Nwobo and Oriana is pretty strong. I think they can stifle New York City. And I think when push comes to shove, I think Cincy wins this thing way easier than anyone else is expecting.
NYCFC has far and away the craziest home field advantage of any team when they play in those baseball stadiums. They are by far and away the most team adapt to playing.
Yeah, but City Field is not as bad as Yankee Stadium.
It isn't as bad. Yeah. Correct. It is a little bigger. It is a pitcher's ballpark, but it's still narrow.
And honestly, I don't know that really. I don't think that Cincy's the team that's going to suffer as much. I think Cincy's poised as just decently. It's a tight space. Lucho Acosta thrives in tight spaces, and Cincy's midfield can clog things up with the best of them. So I'm just not that worried about NYC's home field advantage. Again, I would have rather probably played Cincy than Orlando, just because I think Orlando's super hot from a Charlotte FC perspective. But I don't think Cincinnati's going to have too much problem with NYC. I think NYC kind of has already peaked this year. They were kind of the flavor of the month about a month ago, and I just don't really – I'm not feeling as much recently. But hey, that's just –
I got a question. Sorry, I've completely been isolated in a bubble from social media today. Did they make that official that they're playing in Citi Field today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just wondering.
'cause-
I knew that they had a dispute about some kind of golf thing that was going on at City Field, and they had
Well,
to buy
I don't know
that
about
out.
that. I do know that the final game of the World Series is a game set would be November 2nd, which would be the same game day as the game. But they're playing in LA if it goes 7 games anyway, because LA has the home field advantage. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they're not going to use the stadium anyway. I don't know if they're going to have a watch party
Well,
or what. at the
Yankees
stadium.
Stadium is one thing, but the city, like the
Yeah, I
Mets
know you're saying that
already
they have something else
Yeah.
going. I don't know.
maybe
but
they should just
they
go
made
up and play it
official.
in Hartford, Connecticut. You know who? You know
Yeah.
what?
Or do like they do and play in the Red Bull Stadium. Which
They were playing the Red Bull Stadium, and that's
Oh,
that's what I'm hoping for as a Cincinnati fan, because we've gone 2 years in a row winning the first round of the playoffs in Red Bull Arena. So doing it against NYCFC is about potato for that one.
No, I think it's ridiculous that they've been doing that for so long, but it is what it is. So I got NYCFC. I think everybody else has Cincy. Gerald, did you say NYCFC or Cincy?
I'm not picking one. I would love Cincy, but it's
Okay. All right. And then we go to Gerald, Columbus and the Red Bulls. Now the Red Bulls are a pain in the ass to play against, but in a series, I wouldn't be too worried about playing against the Red Bulls. I think Columbus will probably roll over the Red Bulls. I think you guys take this in 2. How are you feeling about this series against the Red Bulls?
prepared to take it, get to 3 games, but hoping for 2.
Okay. You think the Red Bulls can pull one out?
Yeah. And that's not, I'm 100% confident in Columbus, but just Red Bulls is always a tough opponent.
Yeah, always. They're a big pain in the ass.
You got Forsberg, you got Lewis Morgan.
Love Lewis Morgan.
So I mean, it's I'm sort of salty Miami got rid of him.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those, just the way that the Red Bulls play. They play up instead of playing down.
Yeah, very much so. Tolkien will literally carry that team's momentum every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And they play with that chip on their shoulder, even with that ridiculous style. I mean, it changed. It's adapted slightly with the new leadership, but I mean, it is just as painful this season.
No, they still play coked out. It's like they do a bunch of lines right before they jump on the pitch. It's wild.
Hey, it gives you wings, right?
It gives you something.
Take those ankles, man.
I mean,
I don't know, man. I mean, you handled them on decision day. It did take an extra time goal to get the win, but Forsberg turned in probably his best game of the season, and you're at Red Bull Arena and you go in and win on the road. If I'm Columbus, I'm not sweating Red Bulls at all in this matchup.
I don't think so. I think Columbus is going to win those first 2 games pretty handily. I don't. And then the history that the Red Bulls have. The Red Bulls, it's funny. I saw a graphic the other day, and this is a little off topic, but the New York Liberty WNBA won the title this past week, right? So they put up a graphic of the last time every New York, New Jersey team has won a championship in a professional sport. And the Red Bulls are the only team on that graphic that hasn't won it. Even NYCFC has a title. The Red Bulls are just the Red Bulls. They're paying the ass to play against, but you don't expect them to win anything. So you guys will handle them, Gerald. Danny, you also feel it, right?
Easy. This is the most lopsided matchup of East or West any playoff series.
I agree.
Even Atlanta can give Miami more trouble than the Red Bulls can give.
I agree. I 100% agree. Also,
I
Justin,
still think Cucho's coming out, with a bang.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. Justin, how do you feel about the Red Bulls Columbus?
I think Gerald touched a lot of points. I think it could be a little bit tougher. I think they just you talked about it earlier about, or I think Danny did, about Cincinnati being battle tested. I think the Red Bulls are one of those teams that just every year they seem they have the it factor, right? And so in a matchup like this, where if things aren't quite, I think they may be the most prepared team for Columbus. So if Columbus isn't getting kind of their will, in this match. This could be one of those matches where we kind of get a silent night from Rossi and from Cucho Hernandez. And it just takes one of those to push it to a game 3, right?
Yeah.
So I think that while I think that Columbus should handle them, I think that I have enough respect for the Red Bulls to say that they're probably going to push one at least to penalties. So I'm still going to lean toward a 2-game series, Columbus taking it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets into the playoff or the extra time penalties. Sorry.
And then Mr. Krabs, the women's soccer team called Gotham FC. What an interesting name. Yeah, they play in New York. I believe they won the title a year or two ago.
Just
last year. And they got Rose Lavelle, which is an absolute baller for the U.S. Women's national team. So
not for long.
She's
wink,
leaving.
wink, nudge, nudge, coming to Cincinnati.
So you got to check that out. Definitely start watching some women's soccer, man. And Tank here says he believes that the Rebels are pulling off the upset. Upset as far as one game or the full series? Because I can't see it. I could definitely see them maybe pulling off one. Yeah, no, that's not happening. Was anybody shocked when St. Louis lost in the first round last year?
No.
No,
me either. But see, and they were the first seed, but for some reason, even going into it, I wouldn't have been shocked. With this one would shock me.
I think after the summer window, I think everyone felt like St. Louis was on that downward trajectory that they couldn't crawl out of.
Yeah. St. Louis just got off to an insanely hot start, and they were scoring crazy goals, like higher than their XG, and they faded.
Yeah,
no one was surprised.
That would have been wild, though. That expansion team making it. All right, so just quick Eastern Conference predictions. Miami would probably play against Charlotte, or maybe Orlando. Do you guys think that Orlando or Charlotte could beat Miami in the second round? Because I know a lot of people saying that Columbus might beat Miami, but do you think Orlando or Charlotte would beat Miami?
Only if Miami, as much as I love Charlotte FC, and I was really proud that we held them to the 1-1 draw at Miami, four game weeks ago. I got to say that it's going to take Miami breaking down a little bit for them to be beaten. If Miami's operating at the top of their powers that they have been all season, they're going to be pretty much unbeatable, especially this would be a one game.
One game.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it gets down to one game, there's a little bit more of a chance. But I might actually go down to Miami if I can crash on your couch, Danny, for a Charlotte Miami second round game.
Let's go.
But it would be a fool's errand because I would not be feeling good about a chance to win. Miami, as much as I hate to admit it, because I'm like, just in sports in general, I always think old guys are one
anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this guy's old. He's going to break down. This guy's old. He's going to break down. This guy's old. He's going to break down. It hasn't happened with Miami. So eventually I have to, stop predicting it.
No, I think in that matchup, I think that Charlotte is clearly the better team in my mind between Charlotte and Orlando. I think that
I agree.
Charlotte is in that right phase, but I think that Orlando playing Miami has a better chance. I think that you get a little bit in the head. It's in Miami. Miami is expected to win, heavy favorite, and I don't think it's so much what Orlando would be doing, but kind of the gasps and the crowds, the energy. I think that could be a situation that you don't want to be playing Oscar Pereira and being frustrated and playing right into his trap. So I think that if I was watching this as an Inter Miami fan, I'd be hoping for Orlando.
I'm hoping for Orlando. I told you the only team that scares me in the East is Charlotte. I understand Columbus. Everybody tells me I have to fear Columbus, but Charlotte is the team that fears me the most, that I fear the most. Gerald, do you think Orlando or Charlotte could eliminate Miami?
No.
I like the long pause. Think about it. Nah.
All right.
They give them a game. They give them a run.
Yeah.
They could take it to PKs. But
yeah. Well, that would really worry me. I mean, even though Drake, as far as PKs go, Drake's a great goalie. He's won some big games in that game, but playing against Kalina, that would be interesting for sure. All right. Well, so we more or less think that the the highest probability is that Miami makes the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, on the bottom of that bracket, you got Cincy, NYCFC, Columbus, and the Red Bulls. Any chance that Columbus doesn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals? Because I think Columbus is a shoo-in.
Absolutely, they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm sorry, Columbus. You got some justice certs coming your way.
I'm with Gerald. I really want to see that Hell is Real in the Eastern Conference semifinals.
That would be absolutely awesome. That would be awesome.
There's
But any chance that Cincinnati beats them, though?
I think so. Between those two teams, the philosophy, I think that, Columbus hasn't beaten us this year. We tied at home and we went up there earlier, and that was kind of Kevin Kelsey's coming out party. So I think it's just a matchup difference, right? I think they got us where it mattered, right, in the semifinal last year. Yeah, but I think that this is FC Cincinnati's if we get there. I think I'm terrified of Cucho Hernandez. I'm terrified of Diego Rossi. I think they
my Cucho shirt
will
today.
absolutely tear up our back lines, right? But I don't doubt Pat Noonan to be able to counter Wilfred Nancy. I think Wilfred Nancy is the best coach in the league, but I think Pat Noonan has something with Wilfred Nancy. He's got good tactics. He just doesn't have legs to go. What was it, 120 minutes plus against Inter Miami?
I'd go Dean Smith over Noonan.
I think I just want to say that Columbus, what they're doing is so impressive, especially considering they shipped out Aiden Morris midseason. And if Aiden Morris was still there, I think they probably would be the favorite in the East despite Miami. But I still think they have too much firepower, and I don't think that when I look at that quarter of the bracket, Cincy, New York, Red Bulls, and Columbus, I think Columbus comes out of that foursome, 9 times out of 10.
I agree, and I think Gerald agrees also. Yeah,
I mean, when you got one of the best sixes in the league with Darlington Agby, that's where everything starts. Then you got Cucho, Ramirez, Rossi. You got Jason Russell-Rowe on the bench. You got now AZ is starting to play up. You got Dylan Shambos that is showing that he could be a factor. Then you got Mo Farsi. You got Max Arston, who went from having no draft picture in the 2023 Super Draft to now being a key piece in Columbus's offense.
Mm-hmm.
You got
Marrera.
Nazi has played. You got Steven Marrera. That our
people are saying he should win defensive player of the year
between him and Camacho. Honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And Nazi likes having players being able to play different positions. If you look at Steven Marrera, he's a converted, wingback, now playing back there in the center back. So Nazi
we all think that outside of Justin, everybody's thinking Columbus into Miami Eastern Conference Finals.
Let's see, because I know Cincinnati will beat Columbus.
Regardless, Inter Miami is going to poo-poo on Ohio somehow.
No,
that's what's just going to happen. I don't understand how Inter Miami has become like. It's always been Orlando and Nashville, and all of a sudden, we've just built a hate for Ohio. The state of Ohio, we just can't stand anymore because Columbus fans and Cincinnati fans, I don't know what they got against Inter Miami, but on Twitter, like it's like only one thing can bring Columbus and Cincinnati fans together, and it's the hate for Inter Miami. And I'm like, what the hell happened? Why does everybody hate Inter Miami so much?
I think it's because of the success, right? They're just a team that came out of nowhere, and it all came down to a decision, right? Just a decision by one player has now changed the trajectory of two teams that aren't those big market teams, right?
I think you guys are still sour about LeBron leaving Ohio for Miami.
Oh no, I know. I'm out of that discussion.
Okay.
But no, you have Columbus and Cincinnati are not major market teams, right? And they've kind of built things the way the MLS structure is, right? They're utilizing the DP, they're going out and spending money, and then all of a sudden Don Garber's like, "Oh, the new kid in town, let's just pump him up." So you get a little bit froggy, particularly at the beginning of the season with the roster rules, but you got two teams that have completely exploded onto the scene, and then Messi makes a decision, okay, I'm coming to Miami, and now you're getting Luis Suarez getting paid, $2 and a hot dog to come play for them. And
but hey, that's not our fault. If he's okay getting paid,
it's not. But you can understand the frustration that we'll call Miami a major market team, right? It's not New York, it's not LA, but it is. It's a desirable place
number 3,
for people.
I think.
Yeah, it's a place that people want to go and play.
For sure.
So I think that's why you see so many people, because I've struggled to understand it. Because for me, I just shut up and ball, man. Let's go head to head with them. Let's see if Messi still got it. Let's see if Jordi Alba still got it. But for a lot of people, I think it's just a frustration that they think about, what could be, especially Cincinnati fans, because we did not lift a trophy last year, other than the Supporters Shield. Gerald's team, though, I think they feel the same way, right? They have this window that's incredible. Cucho Hernandez is probably one of the best players, just raw talent in his prime that the MLS has ever had. And all the headlines are for Messi. So
greatest of all time. Well, I guess that's a perfect segue. It was fun talking Eastern Conference playoffs, but Miami won the Supporters Shield this past. Oh, they beat Columbus. They won the Supporters Shield, and then they celebrated breaking the record this past.
They made the Club World Cup thanks to that great Supporters Shield win.
Yeah,
and then they officially qualified for the Club
Only
World
the
Cup.
2024 Supporters Shield matters.
So
yeah.
So I wanted to bring this up just because I know Justin had he wanted to rant. He came on and wanted to poo-poo in the chat.
I didn't want to rant. I just said that.
So,
I said clearly that
I opened the floor to the chat and to you guys.
Yeah.
Miami got invited to the Club World Cup. They got invited as the host club because it's being hosted here in the United States. Now, do you have an issue with this, Danny Brams, that Inter Miami was invited? Okay.
I have an issue with the fact that the criteria wasn't decided until they found a spot that they could get Miami into.
Exactly.
So no matter what, you were going to have an issue with it.
No, I would not have had an issue if they had said before the MLS season kicked off.
But I'm saying, but since they didn't say it, no matter what, you were going to have an issue. Like if Miami won the MLS Cup and then they got invited afterwards, you would have been like, yeah, but they should have set the criteria before.
No. I wouldn't have an issue because then I would have been like, then I'd be like, well, they won both, so it doesn't matter. But if they don't win both, MLS,
then we don't complain anymore.
If they do not end up winning MLS Cup, then that will put the lie to the whole Supporter Shield is the criteria.
But when they do, then we're good.
The points record thing is so overplayed. If I can jump in there,
what are you talking about? Nobody else has done it.
I mean, like 2021, it was set. Right,
but
New England said it there. Last year, Cincinnati was like 2 points short of it.
They've been playing 34 games for almost 15 years now.
Yeah, because they're playing more games now.
No, they've been playing 34 games since 2011.
Oh yeah, but you literally you have more mechanics now to build a competitive roster. This is no longer something
100%.
We're literally just slopping.
I don't think it's going to stay at 74 points for long.
Yeah,
it'll get broken again.
But sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, it'll start pushing up towards 80. I got no beef with the points work thing. Shout out to all the commenters in the chat who are clearly Miami fans who are disappointed. They're all pissed that we're not liking this. But the fact of the matter, and the matter of the fact, is that FIFA wants Messi in the Club World Cup, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get him there. So
yeah,
it's not really about what Miami does; it's about what FIFA wants, and that's where I have a big problem.
I mean, Seattle's the team that qualified, though. Like with the criteria, Seattle's the team. So they had an invite. They had an open invite for a host team. And if it was up to you, would you not invite the best team in the league at the moment?
I would invite Dean Smith and his plucky band of non-key defenders.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because look, Seattle was that team, and they're in there. So Seattle's in. So they had an open invite. Who we're gonna invite? I would assume you invite the best team. At least that's what. If I'm gonna go up against these big teams, and I want my league to be represented well, I'm gonna put out my best team. And Inter Miami is that. So I mean, that's how I look at it.
Hey, there's I think one of the semifinals of Club World Cup is going to be played here in Charlotte. So I'm all for getting as many good teams in there as possible.
Inter Miami being in there is cute and all, but I think they're going to get smacked. Gerald, were you okay with Inter Miami being invited, or do you wanted Columbus in there? Because I know Ohio was really upset about it.
So I'm upset. I'm with Danny as well. Like, if they would have said what the criteria was, before the season, then everybody you would have been able to prioritize. Leagues Cup wouldn't have been, big, right?
Right.
So yes, I would love to see Columbus in there because I think all around, Columbus is one of the best teams in the league. And
they are,
next with Inter Miami, but I think if you want to represent a league, it has to be the league champion.
And by then it'll be the league champion.
Maybe.
I mean, championship game hasn't happened yet.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you want to prioritize the Shield as being the criteria to being invited into the Club World Cup, then prioritize playing every team in the league.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Make the Shield more relevant than by playing every team in the league, because then you can turn around and say the Shield. Okay, the Shield is you won the league in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to be the league champ, go through the playoffs.
I agree. Look, I'm not a big fan of the Supporters Shield. I've made that very obvious on our show. I'm not a big fan of it. It's cute. We won it. That's great. But I think the Shield celebrates the best team because you ended up with the most points, but it's not the champion. And I want the championship, so I'm with you. I think the champion should represent them. But with that being said, I mean, it wasn't a criteria because it was an open invite. Every host team always has an open invite, so there's no criteria for it. So they just wanted to invite. They're going to want to invite Messi.
It's like a captain's pick, on the Ryder Cup golf team or something like that for sure. I will say that I am 100% willing to reverse my position and support Miami's, sidestepping and skipping over everyone else to get into the Club World Cup
if they win.
If Dennis Lopez's prediction here comes true from the comments in the chat, where he says, I want to see Toto Aviles punching Holland. I would love to see that as well. So if we can guarantee that, then I'm all for Miami being it.
Well, I mean, Toto Aviles is definitely want to try that out for sure. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Miami has some spicy players, and they have a lot of history with a lot of those big clubs. So, and they announced that they're going to be hosting the first match of the tournament here in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami.
We all know who it's going to be.
If it's Inter Miami versus Real Madrid.
It is, yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that's going to be insane. Even though Barca's not in it. Barca's not in it.
Oh wow!
But that would be insane, just because obviously the storylines. Messi versus Real Madrid one more time. Now,
bank on it.
I don't want that, just because I think they're going to get smacked. But I don't know.
Is all there?
Yes, I believe they are also.
Oh, so that would be the alternative there.
And I'll take that.
I'll take on that one.
That one mid-season.
That's how you get people interested in the club.
Oh, 100%. Messi, Ronaldo
matches. Messi, Ronaldo, and there's a trophy on the line.
Is Ronaldo allowed to hit back in the United States?
Probably not.
Surely.
Yeah,
his son's still a citizen, so why not?
I don't know. They keep talking about that. Whatever. That's a whole nother issue. All right. And lastly, and then we'll cut it here. We're about to hit the hour mark.
Oh,
Messi MVP. After that hat trick in 35 minutes and the assist, 4 goal contributions in 35 minutes. Has it changed your minds on Messi being MVP?
No, because I said Messi was the MVP beforehand.
Okay. Well, you said it already.
Yeah.
Danny Brams.
Yes and no. I've been saying Cucho's the MVP all season because I think that he does more. That he's just like Messi is great. Messi's great, and Cucho's just like a sort of at this point in his career. In Messi's prime, he was better, but I just think Cucho's in his prime and Messi's not. Now, however, I have changed my thinking a little bit when someone made a good point to me. Because there's this argument against Messi that's like, oh, well, how could Messi be the MVP when he's missed so much of the season and Miami did fine without him? But then I heard someone say something that was really smart, and it was like, if Messi had these numbers and didn't miss any of the time, he'd still have, like, let's say he played as many minutes as everybody else and didn't miss all that time to injury and had these numbers, no one would be saying that about him. Like, they would still be insane, like, best numbers of all time. So that made me sort of reevaluate it a little bit and maybe hold the whole missed games thing less against Messi than I had been before. However, I still love Cucho. I'm going to vote for him if I had a vote.
Luckily, you don't have a vote. Gerald.
Messi couldn't score against Charlotte FC. That's all I would say.
He's going to score on them in the second round.
No goals against Charlotte FC.
You're still sticking with.
I think Cucho might have one.
You guys, you still sticking with the Cucho take?
I am. And I've said it just because Cucho has evolved from the beginning of this season till now. He was suspended after the Charlotte game with the joke of a referee show at the beginning part of the season.
That was offside. You saw the angle from the space station showed it was offside, Gerald. Everybody knows it.
But everything that he's overcome so far this year, and then he's gotten called up, I think, twice now by the Colombian national team.
Mm-hmm.
Two or three times this year already, and he got onto the match day roster once.
Mm-hmm. And it's the first game that they lost in almost 2 years.
Yeah, and they brought him in late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's he has the respect for the country, but he's just like, he's pissed off because he knows that he belongs out there, and he's shown it. And just for him doing that, and then also Nazi has him playing a different role when he's out there on the field. So he's like, he's evolved his whole game to where now it's, you see him in the middle, you see him on the left, you see him on the right. He could drop back to a 6. He could drop back, to a winger. So you don't know, where. But I mean, he's just putting up so many different numbers, breaking club records. He broke Stern John's record that's held since '98.
Yeah, no. Cucho, look, if Messi doesn't win it, I want Cucho to win it. Right? I don't want it to go to Boagna and LAFC. He has like 19 goals, but 10 of them are penalty kicks. I don't want to go to Lucho Acosta, even though I know I know that when he doesn't play, they don't win. But whatever, he got it last year. He's fine.
If the award was straight up, who is the most important player on the team? Like Lucho would win it every single year.
I agree because they literally don't win when he doesn't play.
Yeah.
So Lucho would probably win it every year.
But that's not what the award is.
Evander would have a case in that.
Yeah, I think Evander is the
too. Sure.
I think it's Cucho, Evander, or Messi, and I think Messi. I mean, it's hard to argue with how fantastic.
Evander in the Supporters Shield standings, they're like 16th.
That's true. But they would probably be like 30th without him. So it's if you get in that whole most valuable thing. I got to correct myself real quick. Tony Axe in the chat pointed at something out that I was completely wrong. I said Messi hasn't scored against Charlotte FC. He actually did score in the 1-1 draw. Like he had like the perfect goal. Like it was crazy. So sorry, I was wrong about that. My bad.
There you go.
I might have to change my vote to Messi now since I was this penance for being wrong.
Well, look, I think that him winning over the summer without him is overblown. In the 9 games, 5 of them were against teams that aren't playoff teams, and in the MLS, everybody makes the playoffs. I mean, that you're really bad if you don't make the playoffs. So I think that was a little overblown, and then people don't give him enough credit for the beginning of the season. Miami was a mess with injuries. Jordi Alba was out for like a month. Diego Gomez was out for a month, and they kept winning because of Messi. And then he left for Copa America, and everybody thought the wheels were going to fall off. But luckily, everybody got healthy around that time, and then things went much better than expected. But those first 16, 18 games before he left, Miami was a disaster. Whenever he didn't play, it was either a draw or a loss. So I don't think he gets enough credit for the beginning of the season because obviously it was the beginning of the season.
And also, Messi's going to win the MVP, so it doesn't really matter what any of us think.
You know what? I don't think
he's going to get it. So yeah.
You know what? I at one point I thought it was inevitable, but I feel like so many people have put out their voices about how he shouldn't. I was like, how many of these people that are pundits actually have a vote? Because they might have a vote. So I don't know. Maybe he won't. I think he should. And I think the MLS, and I know that people are going to like that I say this, but just for the simple fact that if Cucho wins it or something like that, it's not going to get much pub. But worldwide right now, MLS is getting more eyes on them worldwide.
Right.
So you'll get that trophy and those pictures circulating worldwide.
So it's like when we'd be out for a family vacation and we'd be like all in the car and my dad would be like, all right, where does everybody want to go stop to get some food? Everybody gets a vote. And everyone would vote, and we would all get united where we want to go. And you go, okay, but my vote counts for 7. My vote counts 7x what y'all have. So Don Garber's going to make sure Messi wins, no matter what anybody voted. Just
I hope so. Just for the sake that I think that it gives more attention to the league, honestly. But it's only because I think that Messi deserves it. If Messi would have half the stats that he has now,
right,
then no, I wouldn't be with it. But because I think that there's an argument for it, I think, if it's even, if it's a coin flip, give it to Messi. I think it's better for the league, even though I know a lot of people, especially people in Ohio, won't agree with me. I think that they should just give it to him because he deserves it, and it's better for the league. All right. Well, as always, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I'm going to give you guys the chance to go ahead, shout your stuff out, your podcast, your Twitter handles, and all that other stuff. Start with For the Crown, Danny Brams. Where can everybody find you?
I'm Danny Brams. You can follow me at Danny Brams if you want, but I'm not really. I don't really care if people follow me personally. Just follow the show Twitter account. That's way more bigger to me. And follow us on YouTube. Charlotte Soccer Show is the name, the formal name of the show. For the Crown Baby is like our tagline.
On your phones right now, guys. Type that in. And support the battered family.
YouTube. No, I don't really care about the numbers. We really just do the show for fun. But if you're gonna give us some numbers, YouTube is the best place to do it. And I love getting on YouTube streams with you, Danny, with meeting other fans, Gerald and Justin. Great to meet you guys, and some of the other folks that we've been with, Tony and whatnot. So great times. Shout out to Chris. I saw him in the chat. Love him. And but yeah, follow Charlotte Soccer Show on YouTube, please.
Yeah,
for the Crown,
and Gerald's going to be stopping by Charlotte because he needs to make up for last.
Yeah, come on down. We'll give you a much better experience, Gerald, for sure. I always have an extra ticket.
So Gerald, let everybody know where they can find you and Ty at.
You can catch me and Ty at the Wiseman Say podcast on YouTube. You can follow our Twitter at Wiseman Pod. If you want to follow me personally, you can follow me at Gerald_Lucas96. And you can also catch all my articles on Vavel USA. Go to vavel.com and click on the American flag, and you can search any of my crew articles if you'd like. Yeah.
Gerald, is it 96 because you were born in 96?
It's the team found
okay. Got you guys. Crew 96, got it. I was about to say, man, you were a young buck.
I was in 87.
Okay, there you go. I'm an 80s baby too. Justin, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can
outside of Ohio.
I am in Kentucky, actually. So there's the meme. No, you can find all of the guys at Cincinnati Soccer Talk and wherever you find your podcast. Just search Cincinnati Soccer Talk or visit us at cincinnati-soccertalk.com for all the written and photography. It's an amazing group of guys and gals that do pretty much all the stuff for free. It's just the love and the passion of it.
Yeah, for those of you that think that the Batter family does a lot of podcasting, Cincinnati Soccer Talk has like an army of people putting out content, written, audio, video. Yeah, they're on it. So shout out to you guys. So make sure that you support everybody, their Twitters, especially their YouTube accounts. We appreciate you guys. I'm Daniel Granada, Battered Herons. Again, we do 4 shows a week. Then we do 1 in Spanish, doing 2 in Spanish now that the playoffs are going on. And we're going to be coming on twice a week with that Battered MLS fans, covering the playoffs for the next month and a half, I guess, or next month, 2 weeks. So make sure that you subscribe to this channel and keep up with us. We'll be back on Thursday covering the Western Conference playoffs, first round. So that should be interesting. Some West Coast faces out on here. And that is it. If you are listening on audio, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please leave us 5 stars, comment, review, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. There's an MLS podcast that invites some other podcasters to talk a lot of poop, and we have a good time. I hate Ohio. And for those of you in the chat, we appreciate you hanging out with us. It's been a great hour and 10 minutes. As always, you guys are the best part of the show. And we'll be back on Tuesday and Thursday, talking some Western Conference. So until the next one, have a good one.